Now at McDonald's, a McDouble is $2.50, so you can get your gym gains on, or just get lunch for only $2.50. Get more value on the under $3 menu.
Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher for delivery.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
What are you most excited to see from your team, the way they responded in the fourth quarter, now getting a chance to play in front of the home crowd tonight?
Yeah, I think two separate but kind of, overlapping, linked things that you're thinking about. One of them is really just having an opportunity to play at home with our fans. The enthusiasm and support that they've provided us throughout the course of the season, particularly since the All-Star break. We had that really long homestand that I think created a lot of enthusiasm and really created a connection between our guys and the fans. That's how it felt to me. As far as the fact that we're playing at home, we know that we've done some things that we're happy with. We also know that there's some things we need to do better. And I think going into the game with that mindset, we know what a formidable opponent New York is, and the level of effort and execution doesn't change whether you're at home or on the road.
Yeah, Quinn, Tony, when that first game you guys signed in, kind of struggled against the Knicks, and then you hadn't really played him until game 2 when you gave him the 12 minutes. What did you think of what he gave you guys in that time, and kind of his progress between that first Knicks game and game 2?
I don't think anybody, Tony, when I threw him in the fire that first Knicks game, he hasn't played basketball for a couple months because he'd been hurt. So that was, the expectations on my part were low. I just wanted to get his feet wet. I think what he's done for us, of late, last game, providing us, a physical presence. And he's a true center. That said, Mo's done the same thing. They're just very different players. Mo's able to, has some versatility defensively. Tony's ability to, just his size, around the rim, particularly against Robinson. But there's a number of ways that both those guys impact the game. So that's one of those playoff situations that, all hands on deck, everybody's going to be ready. But to your original question, maybe more specifically, really happy with, Tony being ready to play. You could also see a comfort level, even though there haven't been a lot of games, just being around the team, practicing and doing some of those things.
Coach, it feels like we've seen a little bit more of Jalen and Jonathan and Onyeka trio together in the first couple of games. Did that lineup, that combination, require any kind of specific ramp up, and what do you like about that lineup in terms of its strengths?
Every lineup has different strengths and weaknesses. You can dig into that, and I think with that group, we're going to fall into a number of different lineups that overlap at various times, and some of that's dictated by what the Knicks are doing and whether we want to try to chase a matchup or how we're playing. And I think when those guys are on the court together, we really need to defend. We need to defend, and we need to run. They need to run for each other, and they're capable of doing that. So we're going to continue. I think it's something we've been very specific about as a group, whether it's minutes, rotations, shots, touches, who starts, who finishes. You know, this is the playoffs, and you know, whatever those lineups are that end up on the floor, we've got to try to maximize where they are, and I think you'll continue to see a variety of lineups.
A lot has been made of you guys leading the league in assists this year, top 10 all time, and all those things. And those numbers are down in the series so far. Those 2 games, it's a small sample, but how much of that is just the way that the playoffs stylistically changed? It's almost always going to bring that number down, and how you play offense and how that kind of back and forth goes.
Honestly, I think it has for us right now. And, you know, we're playing the Knicks, so it's hard to make a more general statement. But the way that the job that they do, shifting and making it difficult to get an advantage. You know, their defense is, you know, their shell is thick and hard to crack, and so, you know, it takes a lot of work to get it in there, and then you've got to kick it out, and you probably got to swing it more time. And I think for us, you know, finding more of a rhythm in that and generating more catch and shoot threes would be a good thing for us. I also think they make it hard in transition. They're able to impact the offensive glass with individual players at a high level without having to send multiple guys. So they're able to get back offensive rebound and get in transition defense. So we're going to keep trying to get out and run. We're going to keep trying to get into the paint, have our eyes out, and generate some of those assists. You know, hopefully we got to make the shot to count the assists. So one of the areas I think our execution can continue to improve. But to your point, I think it's also true of the playoffs. You know, things do slow down. We don't want to just accept that as the norm, but continue to try to play the way we want to play.
Coach, through 2 games, Josh Hart had 27 rebounds. Obviously, pretty high for. He's usually a good rebounder, but pretty high even for him.
I couldn't hear the first part of the question.
Josh Hart through the first 2 games, 27 rebounds. What have you seen from him, and how do you limit those opportunities for him?
Yeah, I mean, he's tenacious when he crashes, particularly from the high quad and the perimeter. I think he has a great anticipation for when a shot's going to be taken, and it's not enough to kind of mark him and put a body on him. He's going to work to run through you. He does it just with physicality. It's just good, clean, hard play. So we just got to do a better job. First, I think recognizing that when we're in a rotation situation, it's not always as easy as just going, oh, there he is. You know, you've got to locate him. And I think the same thing was true last game of JC, from Jordan Clarkson. The way that we crashed, and obviously the way that he crashed, Robinson, that one's pretty obvious. So our commitment's got to run deeper to that, and we need to be better at it.
When the last time the Knicks were here, Nikhil had a terrific game. Start to the postseason, maybe not on par with where he typically is, but he has postseason experience. Just the conversation with him in the first 2 games, are there any direct instructions, or is it just you kind of trust his feel to figure it out?
I think there's always, we always like to talk and figure out if there's, what can we do? Let's watch it on film. What are you thinking? How can we help? What can you do? How can we make different reads, et cetera, et cetera. I think maybe the most important thing with Nikhil is even if the productivity wasn't what it was that previous game, he still really impacted the series just with his gravity. And there's a fearlessness about him that's willing to take a big shot. And he never wavers on the defensive end. So having said all that, the physicality and the speed of the game, I think is something we're settling into. And we're going to have so much belief in Nikhil and what he's capable of doing. And, as you go through a series, you find, certain ways to make it a little easier. And I think that's important for him to continue to identify those things and, let the game come to him, which I know he can do.
Hey, Coach, more of a fun one. If you had to give us
Ask me about my glasses again.
If you had to give us a one-word description for what we're in store for tonight, what would it be and why? Just like
A one-word description.
Yeah. Or descriptive.
There's no way I can describe what's going on with myself and my team in this game. One word. So that's. I can think of a word that means that, but I'll respectfully pass on trying to capture that because the magnitude of this game at home. Two teams. I feel like it's hard to frame it with one word. Thanks, though.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.